So this is the last of the PowerPoint for tax remedy. For the government, these are the tools the government can use now to enforce tax laws and collect revenues. Assessment of taxes. The Bureau of Internal Revenue can issue tax assessments if they find deficiencies in a taxpayer's filings. Collection by distraint and levy. The government may seize personal or real property of a delinquent taxpayer to satisfy unpaid taxes. Civil action. The BIR may also file a case in court to collect taxes. Criminal prosecution. For tax evasion, fraud, or willful failure to file returns, the government may initiate criminal proceedings. Compromise settlement. Here, the BIR may settle tax liabilities under certain conditions like doubtful validity or financial incapacity. And the last one, closure of business. Under this Oplan Candado program, the BIR may temporarily close establishments for non-compliance. On the other hand, these are the taxpayers' remedies. This protects taxpayers from unjust assessments or enforcement. Number one is to protest against assessment. Taxpayers can file a written protest within 30 days of receiving a final assessment notice. They can request for reconsideration or reinvestigation to challenge the assessment based on legal or factual grounds. Taxpayers can also appeal to the Court of Tax Appeal. If the protest is denied or not acted upon within 180 days, the taxpayer may appeal within 30 days. They can also claim for refund or tax credit, but must be filed within 2 years from the date of payment. They can also do compromise settlement. A taxpayer may request to settle liabilities under specific conditions and abatement of tax liabilities. This is a request to cancel the tax if it is unjust or excessive. Essential features of tax assessment. Legal basis and authority. Tax assessments must be based on the National Internal Revenue Code. Only authorized BIR officials can issue assessments, and they must be backed by a letter of authority or LOA. Due process requirements. The taxpayer must be given the opportunity to respond and present evidence. The process includes notice of discrepancy. These are issued after initial findings. Preliminary assessment notice. This is sent if discrepancies remain unresolved. And the final assessment notice and formal letter of demand. These are issued if the taxpayer is still found liable. Letter of authority. A valid LOA is mandatory for any tax assessment to proceed. Without a LOA, any assessment is considered void and violates the taxpayer's right to due process. Checklist of required documents. The LOA should include a checklist of documents that the taxpayer must submit. Failure to comply may result in a subpoena duces tecum. Timeline and deadline. Taxpayers must respond within 5 days from receipt of ND for initial explanation, 15 days from receipt of PAN to file a reply, and 30 days from ND for submission of supporting documents. Review and approval. After the taxpayer's response, the BIR conducts a review. If the taxpayer is still liable, the case is endorsed for issuance of PAN or FLD. Right to protest and appeal. Taxpayers may file a protest within 30 days of receiving the PAN. If denied or not acted upon within 180 days, the taxpayer may appeal to the Court of Tax Appeals. Essential documents of tax assessment. Number one is letter of authority or LOA. This is a formal document issued by the BIR authorizing specific revenue officers to examine a taxpayer's books. It initiates the audit process and ensures due process. This is required under Section 13 of the NIRC, and without a valid LOA, any assessment is null and void. Assessment notice. There are two types of assessment notice. We have the preliminary assessment notice, which notifies the taxpayer of proposed deficiency taxes, while the final assessment notice is a formal demand for payment after the taxpayer fails to refute the preliminary assessment notice, to inform and allow the taxpayer to respond before liabilities become final. Preliminary assessment notice. This is a formal notice of proposed tax deficiency. It ensures due process by giving the taxpayer a chance to respond before a FAN is issued. Taxpayers has 15 days to reply. Failure to issue a PAN before a FAN may render the assessment void. Issuance of a preliminary assessment notice as a prerequisite to the issuance of a final assessment notice. This is a requirement grounded in the principle of due process as outlined in Section 228 of the National Internal Revenue Code. These are the key points of a PAN as a prerequisite to FAN. The purpose of the PAN serves as a pre-assessment notice informing the taxpayer of the BIR's findings. It gives the taxpayers an opportunity to respond or refute the proposed deficiency before the assessments become final. Legal requirements. Section 228 of the NIRC mandates that no FAN shall be issued without first issuing a PAN, except in specific cases, mathematical errors, withholding tax discrepancies, or excise tax issues. Response period. The taxpayer has 15 days from receipt of the PAN to file a written reply or submit supporting documents. Effect of non-issuance. If the BIR fails to issue a PAN before the FAN, the assessment may be considered void for violating the taxpayer right to due process. These are the exceptions to PAN requirements. PAN may be dispensed with in cases involving mathematical errors on the face of the return, discrepancies in withholding tax returns, fraud or falsified records, and waiver of PAN by the taxpayer in compromise agreement. Final assessment notice. The FAN is a formal written notice issued by the BIR to a taxpayer stating the final amount of tax deficiency determined after audit and review. It is accompanied by a formal letter of demand. These are the contents of a fund or FAN. The type of tax assessed, whether that's income tax, VAT, or withholding tax. The taxable period covered, and the amount due, including the basic tax, the surcharges, interest, or penalties. Legal and factual basis for the assessment. Legal basis. This is governed by Section 228 of the National Internal Revenue Code. Must be preceded by a preliminary assessment notice except in specific cases. Timeline and taxpayers' rights. Upon receipt of the fund, the taxpayer has 30 days to file a protest, request for consideration or investigation. If no protest is filed, the assessment becomes final and executory. If protested, the BIR must act within 180 days. Otherwise, the taxpayer may appeal to the Court of Tax Appeal. Consequences of improper issuance. If the FAN is issued without a valid PAN or served improperly, not to an authorized representative, it may be declared void for violating due process. Requisites for a valid tax assessment. Number one is proper authority. The assessment must be conducted under a valid letter of authority issued by the Commissioner of Internal Revenue or an authorized representative. Without a LOA, any assessment is void for violating due process. Written and signed assessment. The assessment must be in writing and signed by the authorized BIR official. Legal and factual basis. It must clearly state the law and facts on which the assessment is based. This includes the computation of deficiency taxes and the reasons for the assessment. Demand for payment. The assessment must include a formal demand for payment within a prescribed period. This is typically done through the final assessment notice and formal letter of demand. Service to the taxpayer. The assessment must be served upon and received by the taxpayer. Proper service ensures the taxpayer is informed and can exercise their rights in protest or appeal. Observance of due process. The BIR must follow the correct sequence. LOA, notice of discrepancy, discussion of discrepancy, preliminary assessment notice, and FAN or FLD. Skipping any of these steps, except in legally exempted cases, may render the assessment invalid. Formal decision on disputed assessment. The FDDA is the final written decision issued by the Commissioner of Internal Revenue or their authorized representative in response to a taxpayer's protest against a final assessment notice. It formally resolves the taxpayer's protest, either sustains, modifies, or cancels the assessment, and serves as the basis for the judicial appeal to the Court of Tax Appeal if the taxpayer disagrees. Timeline. The BIR must act on the protest within 180 days from submission of supporting documents. If the taxpayer receives the FDDA, they have 30 days to appeal to the CTA. If no FDDA is issued within 180 days, the taxpayer may also appeal to the CTA based on inaction. Prescriptive period for tax assessment. As a general rule, the BIR has 3 years to assess taxes from the date the return was filed or due, whichever is later. Exceptions to this rule are those filed with false or fraudulent return or no return filed. The BIR has 10 years from the date of discovery to assess. Substantial understatement of income. If income is understated by 30% or more, the 10-year rule applies. Waiver of prescriptive period. Taxpayers may sign a waiver extending the BIR's time to assess. This must follow strict procedural requirements to be valid. If the BIR fails to issue an assessment within the applicable prescriptive period, the taxpayer is released from liability for that taxable year. Ten-year extraordinary prescriptive period. Under Section 222 of the National Internal Revenue Code, the Bureau of Internal Revenue may assess taxes within 10 years from the discovery of fraud, falsity, or omission, instead of the usual 3-year period. The 10-year period applies only in exceptional cases, especially when no tax return was filed. If a taxpayer fails to file a required return, the BIR has 10 years from the date it discovers the omission. False or fraudulent return was filed. If a taxpayer files a return that contains deliberate or willful misstatements with intent to evade taxes, the 10-year period applies. Substantial underdeclaration. In some cases, courts have ruled that a 30% or more understatement of income may be considered prima facie evidence of fraud, triggering the 10-year period. Important clarification. The 10-year period starts from the date of discovery, not from the filing of the return. The BIR must prove fraud or falsity convincingly. Mere errors or negligence do not justify the extended period. The Supreme Court has emphasized that the 10-year period is an exception, not the rule, and must be applied strictly. This is a comparison with the regular prescriptive period. Regular truthful return prescriptive period is 3 years from filing or due date, whichever is later. If there is no return filed, the prescriptive period is 10 years from the discovery of omission. And false or fraudulent return with intent, the prescriptive period is also 10 years from the discovery of fraud or falsity. False return versus fraudulent return. A false return is a return that contains inaccurate or incorrect information but without intent to defraud the government. This is often due to negligence, mistake, or misunderstanding of tax rules. An example is misreporting income due to a bookkeeping error. Prescriptive period is 10 years from the date of discovery of the falsity to assess taxes. Courts require significant omissions or inaccuracies, but no malicious intent is needed to classify a return as false. A fraudulent return, on the other hand, involves intentional deceit or misrepresentation with the goal of evading taxes. This is a deliberate action such as concealing income, falsifying deductions, or manipulating records. An example is creating fake expense to reduce taxable income. Prescriptive period is 10 years from the date of discovery of the fraud and requires proof of intent to defraud. Mere understatement of income is not enough to prove fraud. This is the summary of the false return versus fraudulent return. Waiver of the statute of limitations. This refers to a voluntary agreement by the taxpayer to extend the period within which the Bureau of Internal Revenue may assess or collect taxes. This waiver is governed by Section 22B of the National Internal Revenue Code. Normally, the BIR has 3 years from the date of filing or due date of a tax return to issue an assessment. A waiver allows the BIR more time beyond this 3-year period to complete its audit and issue a final assessment notice. According to Revenue Memorandum Order number 20-90, a valid waiver must be in writing, indicate the specific extended period, signed by both the taxpayer or its authorized representative and a duly authorized BIR official. This should be notarized and properly acknowledged and executed before the original prescripted period expires. Failure to meet any of these requirements renders the waiver invalid. The BIR loses its right to assess beyond the original 3-year period. Legal implications. The waiver is a bilateral agreement, not a unilateral act, and it must be strictly construed because it involves the relinquishment of a legal right by the taxpayers. Courts have ruled that procedural defects like missing dates, unauthorized signatories invalidate the waiver and do not suspend the prescripted period. Example, if a taxpayer filed a return on April 15, 2022, the BIR has until April 15, 2025 to assess. If a valid waiver is signed on March 30, 2025, extending the period to December 31, 2025, the BIR can still issue an assessment within that extended time. Execution of a valid waiver. The execution of a valid waiver of the Statute of Limitations is governed by Section 222 of the National Internal Revenue Code and clarified through various BIR issuances and court rulings. This waiver allows the Bureau of Internal Revenue and the taxpayer to extend the 3-year prescriptive period for tax assessment. Requisites for a valid waiver. According to RMO number 29C and relevant jurisprudence, the following conditions must be met. Proper form. The waiver must follow the format prescribed by the BIR. It must clearly state the extended deadline for assessment, but not after December 31, 2025. The waiver should contain the authorized signatory. This must be signed by the taxpayer or its duly authorized representative with notarized delegation and a BIR official authorized by the Commissioner. Notarization. The waiver must be notarized to ensure authenticity and legal effect. And timely execution. The waiver must be executed before the original 3-year prescriptive period expires, or if a second waiver is executed, it must be done before the first waiver's expiration. There should also be an acceptance by the BIR. The BIR must sign and date the waiver to indicate acceptance, and the taxpayer must be notified of the BIR's acceptance. Copies and documentation. 3 copies must be prepared, one for the BIR docket, one for the taxpayer, and one for the BIR office. The taxpayer's receipt of their copy must be documented. The waiver is a bilateral agreement, not a unilateral act, and it must be strictly construed because it derogates the taxpayer's right to be free from prolonged investigation. Consequences of an invalid waiver. If any of the above requirements are not met, the waiver is invalid. An invalid waiver does not suspend the running of the statute of limitations, and the BIR loses its right to assess taxes beyond the original 3-year period. An invalid waiver of the statute of limitation refers to a waiver that fails to meet the legal and procedural requirements set by the BIR and the courts. When a waiver is invalid, it does not suspend or extend the prescriptive period for a tax assessment, and any assessment issued beyond that original deadline may be considered void. A According to Revenue Memorandum Order Number 20-90 and Supreme Court rulings, a waiver is invalid if it fails to meet any of the following: lack of proper form. The waiver must clearly state the extended period for assessment. It must follow the BIR prescribed format. Missing or unauthorized signatories must be signed by the taxpayer or its duly authorized representative and an authorized BIR official. Tax collection. This is the process by which the Bureau of Internal Revenue enforces the payment of taxes due from taxpayers. This process is governed by the NIRC and has been defined by laws such as the Train Law and the Ease of Paying Taxes Act. Key features. This is a voluntary compliance. Taxpayers are expected to file returns and pay taxes on time. This includes income tax, VAT, percentage tax, and other national internal revenue taxes, and payments are made through authorized banks or BIR offices. The withholding tax system. Certain entities act as withholding agents, deducting taxes at source, like salaries, professional fees. These taxes are remitted directly to the BIR, ensuring early collection. Instances when assessed tax becomes collectible. An assessed tax becomes collectible when it reaches a specific legal status known as final and executory. This status triggers the BIR's authority to enforce collection through various remedies. Unprotested assessment. If the taxpayer fails to file a protest within 30 days from receipt of the final assessment notice, the assessment becomes final and demandable. Protest denied or not acted upon. If the taxpayer files a protest and the BIR denies it or fails to act within 180 days, the taxpayer may appeal to the Court of Tax Appeal. If no appeal is filed within 30 days, the assessment becomes final and executory. Final decision on disputed assessment. If the BIR issues an FDDA and the taxpayer does not appeal to the CTA within the prescribed period, the assessment becomes collectible. CTA decision affirming the assessment. If the CTA upholds the BIR's assessment and the decision becomes final, the tax becomes collectible. The BIR uses several collection methods to enforce the payment of taxes once they become final and demandable. These methods are grounded in the National Internal Revenue Code and clarified by Supreme Court through rulings and BIR regulation. We have voluntary compliance. Taxpayers file returns and pay taxes on time. Payments are made through authorized agents or banks or BIR offices. Includes a self-assessment and withholding tax payment. Distraint. This is the seizure of taxpayers' personal property, like vehicles, equipment, inventory, to satisfy unpaid taxes. The BIR issues a warrant of distraint, serves it on a taxpayer, and then sells the property at public auction. Levy. This is the seizure of real properties like lands, buildings owned by the taxpayer. The BIR issues a warrant of levy, registers this with the Registry of Deeds, and auctions the property. Constructive distraint. This prevents the taxpayer from disposing of assets during an investigation and is applied when there is a risk that the taxpayer may abscond or hide assets. Judicial action. This is the filing of a civil case in court to compel payment of taxes. This is used if distraint and levy are insufficient or impractical. Example, filing a complaint or responding to a taxpayer's petition for review with a counterclaim for payment. And garnishment. This is the freezing and collecting funds from the taxpayer's bank accounts or receivables. The BIR issues a garnishment order to financial institution or third parties. This is a summary of the assessment type and collection period. Prescriptive periods for collection refers to the time frame within which the Bureau of Internal Revenue can legally collect taxes after an assessment has become final and executory. Ordinary collection period. This is 3 years from the date the tax was assessed. Applies when a valid return was filed and no fraud or falsity is involved, and based on Section 203 of the National Internal Revenue Code. Extraordinary collection period. This is 5 years from the date of assessment and applies in cases of false or fraudulent returns, failure to file a return. This is based on Section 222 of the NIRC. When does the collection period start? The period begins after the assessment becomes final, which happens when no protest is filed within 30 days of receiving the final assessment notice, or a protest is denied and no appeal is made to the Court of Tax Appeals. The CTA affirms the assessment and the decision becomes final. Suspension of collection period. The running of the collection period may be suspended in certain cases, such as when the taxpayer requests a reconsideration or reinvestigation, when a case is pending before the CTA or court, and when the taxpayer enters into an installment payment agreement. Collection without assessment is generally not allowed, except in specific cases provided under the National Internal Revenue Code. The general rule is that there is no collection without assessment. Under Section 203 of the NIRC, taxes must be assessed within 3 years from the filing of the return, and no collection action, restraint, levy, or court cases can be initiated without a valid assessment within this period. Exceptions when collection without assessment is allowed. False or fraudulent return with intent to evade tax. Under Section 222A of the NIRC, if a taxpayer files a false or fraudulent return, the BIR may assess taxes at any time within 10 years from discovery. Initiate collection proceedings without assessment within the same 10-year period. Failure to file a return. If a taxpayer fails to file a required return, the BIR may file a case or initiate collection without assessment, also within 10 years from discovery. When collection without assessment is allowed, the BIR may freeze the assets directly or file a case in court to compel payment. These are some of the example cases. In CIR versus the QL Development Inc., the Supreme Court clarified that if the BIR issues an assessment within the ordinary 3-year period and it has 3 more years to collect, if the BIR relies on extraordinary 10-year period due to a fraud or no return, it has 5 years from assessment to collect. In cases of fraud or omission, collection may proceed even without assessment. Taxpayers' remedies. Administrative remedies handled with the BIR. Request for reconsideration based on errors in law or fact must be filed within 30 days from receipt of the final assessment notice. Request for reinvestigation involves submission of new evidence not previously considered, also filed within 30 days from receipt of the FAN. Administrative protest filed within 60 days from receipt of the fund. If denied, the taxpayer has 30 days to appeal to the commissioner or proceed to court. Compromise settlement allowed when the taxpayer is financially incapacitated or the assessment is doubtful in validity. Abatement of tax liability. Cancellation of penalties or surcharges due to reasonable costs or factors beyond the taxpayer's control. Claim for refund or tax credits. Filed when taxes are erroneously or excessively paid and must be filed within 2 years from the date of payment. Judicial remedies. Appeal to the Court of Tax Appeals. If the BIR denies the protest or fails to act within 180 days, the taxpayer may appeal to the CTA within 30 days. Petition for review. Filed with the CTA to contest the BIR's final decision on disputed assessments. Civil action for refund. Filed with the CTA or regular court if the BIR denies or fails to act on a refund claim. Injunction against collection. Taxpayers may seek a temporary restraining order or injunction to stop collection while a case is pending. Required contents of a valid protest letter. The taxpayer must comply with specific requirements outlined in the National Internal Revenue Code and the BIR regulation. Failure to meet these requirements may result in the protest being considered void and the assessment becoming final and demandable. According to BIR rules and jurisprudence, a valid protest must include the following: the nature of the protest, which clearly states whether the protest is a request for reconsideration based on existing records or a request for reinvestigation with new or additional investment. Specify the type and purpose of the protest. Date of the assessment notice. Indicate the date of the receipt of the final assessment notice and the formal letter of demand. This is crucial for verifying compliance with the 30-day protest period. Grounds for protest. Explain the legal and factual basis for disputing the assessment. May include errors in computation, incorrect application of tax laws, lack of factual basis, and procedural violations during audit. Applicable laws and jurisprudence. They may cite relevant tax laws, BIR regulations, or court decisions that support your position. Supporting documents. Attach relevant documents such as financial statements, receipts, contracts, legal opinions, and any newly discovered evidence or for investigation. Formal address and signature. Address the letter to the Commissioner of Internal Revenue or the appropriate regional director. Include the taxpayer's signature, name, and contact details. If any of the above elements are missing, the protest may be deemed invalid. The assessment then becomes final and executory, and the BIR may proceed with collection. Consequences of failure to file a valid protest. Failure to file a valid protest against a tax assessment has serious consequences. Here's a breakdown of what happens when a taxpayer does not properly or timely protest a final assessment notice. The assessment becomes final and executory. If a taxpayer fails to file a protest within 30 days from receipt of the FAN and the formal letter of demand, the assessment becomes final, executory, and unassailable. This means the taxpayer loses the right to dispute the assessment administratively or judicially. Assessment becomes collectible. Once final, the BIR may proceed with the collection actions, including restraint and levy of assets, garnishment of bank accounts, and filing of a judicial action to collect the taxes. No jurisdiction for court appeals. If the protest is invalid, meaning missing required consent or filed with the wrong office, the Court of Tax Appeal may dismiss any appeal for lack of jurisdiction. So a protest must include the nature of the protest, the date of the assessment notice, legal and factual basis, and supporting documents. Delinquency and penalties. The taxpayer may be classified as delinquent subject to 25% surcharge plus interest plus compromise penalties. Reminders: filing a protest late or incomplete is equivalent to not filing at all. The protest must be filed with the correct BIR office, which is the regional director or assistant commissioner who signed the fund, and filing with the wrong office or via improper channel may render the protest void and without effect. Outcomes after filing a protest. Full acceptance of the protest. The BIR may find merit in the taxpayer's arguments and cancel the entire assessment. An authority to cancel assessment is issued to formally nullify the assessment. Partial acceptance. The BIR may agree with some points raised in the protest and reduce the assessment. The taxpayer pays the accepted portion and an APCA is issued for the cancelled portion. And the final decision on disputed assessment is issued for the remaining balance. Full denial of the protest. If the BIR rejects the protest entirely, it issues an FDDA confirming the full amount assessed. The taxpayer then has 30 days to appeal to the Court of Tax Appeals. Failure to submit supporting documents. If the taxpayer fails to submit required documents within 60 days of filing a request for an investigation, the protest is deemed abandoned. The assessment thus becomes final and executory, and the BIR may initiate collection action. Settlement or payment. The taxpayer may choose to settle or pay the assessment in full or in part. Payment form of 0605 is issued or used to document the payment. For partial payments, the remaining balance is subject to FDDA and possible appeal. Remedies available to taxpayers in case of inaction by the BIR. Appeal to the Court of Tax Appeal. If the BIR fails to act within 180 days from the filing of a protest or submission of supporting documents in case of the investigation, the taxpayer may treat the inaction as deemed denial. The taxpayer then has 30 days from the lapse of the 180-day period to file a petition for review with the CTA. Judicial review of the assessment. The CTA has exclusive appellate jurisdiction over disputed assessments. The taxpayer must file a verified petition stating the facts, legal basis, and arguments against the assessment. Motion for reconsideration or appeal to CTA en banc. If the CTA division issues an unfavorable decision, the taxpayer may file a motion for reconsideration within 15 days. If denied, the taxpayer may appeal to the CTA en banc. Petition for certiorari to the Supreme Court. If the CTA en banc still rules against the taxpayer, a petition for certiorari may be filed with the Supreme Court, but only on the ground of grave abuse of discretion. Compromise settlement. If the assessment becomes final and the taxpayer cannot pay, they may request for a compromise. 10% of basic tax is based on financial incapacity, and 40% of basic tax is based on doubtful validity. These are the summary of important deadlines. Judicial appeals after Court of Tax Appeals denial. If the Court of Tax Appeals denies a taxpayer's petition, there are still judicial remedies available in the Philippines. Here's a breakdown of the appeals process after a CTA denial. Initial appeal to CTA division. After a denial of a protest by the Commissioner of Internal Revenue, the taxpayer may file a petition for review with the CTA division within 30 days from receipt of the decision or from the lapse of the 180-day period if no decision is issued. Appeal to CTA en banc. If the CTA division denies the petition, the taxpayer may appeal to the CTA en banc. This is done by filing a motion for reconsideration or a petition for review within 15 days from receipt of the division's decision. Final appeal to the Supreme Court. If the CTA en banc also denies the appeal, the taxpayer may file a petition for review on certiorari with the Supreme Court under Rule 45 of the Rules of Court. This must be filed within 15 days from the receipt of the CTA en banc's decision. The Supreme Court reviews only questions of law, not factual findings. Important timelines. 30 days to appeal to CTA division after CIRD decision or lapse of 180 days. 15 days to appeal to CTA en banc after division decision. And 15 days to appeal to Supreme Court after en banc decision. Additional notes. If the final decision on disputed assessment is issued by a regional director, the taxpayer may first request reconsideration from the CIR or directly appeal to the CTA. If the CIR does not act within 180 days, the taxpayer may appeal to the CTA within 30 days from the lapse of that period. Remedies in general. Compromise. The Commissioner of Internal Revenue has the legal authority to compromise tax liabilities under specific conditions as provided by Section 204A of the National Internal Revenue Code. This power is a key administrative remedy available to taxpayers who are either financially distressed or disputing the validity of a tax assessment. Legal basis and authority. The CIR may compromise the payment of any internal revenue tax when there is doubt as to the validity of the assessment or the taxpayer demonstrates financial incapacity to pay. If the basic tax assessed exceeds 1 million, the approval of the Secretary of Finance is also required. Grounds for compromise. Doubtful validity of assessment. This applies when the correctness or legality of the tax assessment is reasonably questionable. The taxpayer must present evidence that casts doubts on the assessment. Financial incapacity applies when the taxpayer cannot afford to pay the full tax liability. requires submission of audited financial statements, affidavits, and other documents proving inability to pay. Minimum compromise rate: 40% of the basic tax due for doubtful validity, 10% of the basic tax due for financial incapacity. These rates are set by the Train Law and Ease of Paying Taxes Act to standardize compromise settlement. Process overview: application: taxpayer submits a formal request to the BIR. The BIR reviews the grounds and supporting documents, approves within if within 1 million, Secretary of Finance must approve if above 1 million. Taxpayer then pays the agreed compromise amount and issues a certificate of availment and cancels the assessment. Abatement: the Commissioner of Internal Revenue has exclusive authority to abate or cancel internal revenue tax liabilities, including penalties, interest, under Section 204 of the National Internal Revenue Code. This power is distinct from the compromised authority and is exercised under specific conditions. Legal basis: Section 204 of the NIRC authorized the CIR to abate or cancel tax liabilities when the tax or any portion thereof appears to be unjustly or excessively assessed. The administration and collection costs involved do not justify the collection of the amount due. This authority cannot be delegated to other internal revenue officers. They may only recommend abatement, but the final decision rests solely with the Commissioner. Grounds for abatement: according to Revenue Regulations Number 13-2001 and 15-2007, the following are valid grounds for abatement: unjust or excessive assessment, filing at the wrong venue, mistaken payment due to erroneous official advice, late filing due to labor disputes, natural calamities, armed conflict, business reversals, and difficult interpretation of tax laws. High collection cost: when the cost of collecting the tax exceeds the amount due. Scope of abatement: the CIR may abate basic tax, surcharges and penalties, interest, but only under specific conditions. Disputed or litigated assessments may be subject to abatement of penalties and interest, provided the taxpayer pays 100% of the basic tax. Application process: file a formal request with the BIR office handling the case. Submit the assessment notice, the application for abatement form, and the proof of payment of basic tax, if applicable. The case is reviewed by a technical working committee, and then the Commissioner makes the final decision. If approved, a termination letter and authority to cancel assessment are issued. Important notes: Internal Revenue Officers may not approve abatements, they only recommend them to the CIR. And criminal tax cases and withholding tax cases are generally excluded from abatement programs. Tax refund and credit. Under the Philippine Tax Code Section 203C and 229 as amended by the Ease of Paying Taxes Act of 2023, governs the refund and credit of taxes erroneously or illegally collected. Section 204-C, the administrative authority to refund or credit. This section empowers the Commissioner of Internal Revenue to credit or refund taxes erroneously or illegally received, refund penalties imposed without authority, refund the value of Internal Revenue stamps returned in good condition, redeem or change unused stamps rendered unfit for use and refund their value upon proof of restruction. Key administrative requirements. Taxpayer must file the BIR form number 1914, application for tax credits or refunds. Submit to the Revenue District Office or large taxpayer's office depending on jurisdiction. Claims must be filed within 2 years from the date of payment of the tax or penalties. Complete documentary requirements must be submitted, including letter to the Commissioner stating legal basis and facts, tax return and proof of payment, notarized attestation of completeness, delinquency verification certificate, and other supporting documents depending on the nature of the tax. Section 229, Judicial Claim for Refund. This section governs the filing of judicial claims in court and sets two conditions. Administrative claim must first be filed with the BIR. Judicial claim must be filed within 2 years from the date of payment of the tax. Important updates under the Ease of Paying Taxes Act. The taxpayer may appeal to the Court of Tax Appeals if the BIR fails to act on the claim within 180 days. Alternatively, the taxpayer may wait for the BIR's final decision without pursuing judicial remedy. The 2-year prescriptive period for judicial claim is now absolute, meaning it must be filed within the time regardless of any delays or supervening events. Summary of process. File administrative claim with complete documents within 2 years. The BIR has 180 days to act. If denied or not acted upon, taxpayer must file a judicial claim with the CTA within 30 days after the 180-day period, or wait for the BIR's decision but still within the 2-year window. Processing of income tax credit or refund. Refunds or credits may arise from excess creditable withholding tax, overpayment of income tax, erroneous or illegal tax collection, double remittances, and credited foreign taxes exceeding allowable limits. Key legal provisions. Section 204-C grants the BIR Commissioner authority to refund or credit taxes erroneously or illegally collected. Section 229 allows judicial claim for refund, provided an administrative claim has been filed first. Section 76C covers excess unutilized CWT on income, especially for corporation and businesses. Prescriptive periods. Administrative claim must be filed within 2 years from the date of payment or filing of the AITR. Judicial claim, Court of Tax Appeal, must be filed within 30 days after the BIR denies the claim or 180 days lapse without action from the BIR. Processing timeline. 180 days, BIR must act on the claim within this period. If no action is taken, the taxpayer may file a judicial claim with the CTA within 30 days or wait for the BIR's final decision but still within the 2-year window. Requirements for filing a tax credit or refund claim. Here are the essential requirements for filing a tax credit or refund claim with the Bureau of Internal Revenue based on the latest guidelines under Section 204C and 229 of the Tax Code and the Revenue Memorandum Circulars number 74-2024 and 75-2024. This must be submitted with BIR Form 1914, Application for Tax Credits or Refund. Letter to the Commissioner of Internal Revenue must state the legal basis, facts, and circumstances justifying the claim. Filed tax return. Copy of the annual income tax return or relevant tax return showing overpayment or excess CWT. Withholding tax certificates. BIR Form 2307 or equivalent showing taxes withheld and remitted to BIR. Summary alpha list of withholding agents electronically filed and validated by BIR. Audited financial statements. BIR stamped financial reports for the taxable year involved. Transaction proof. Contracts, invoices, or receipts supporting the income subjected to withholding tax. Notarized taxpayer's attestation. Certifies that the documents submitted are complete and accurate. Delinquency verification certificate. Valid for 6 months. Issued by the Collection Division or LT Collection Enforcement Division. Secretary's certificate or special power of attorney for corporate or individual claimants authorizing representatives to file and follow up the claim. Valid government-issued ID with 3 specimen signature of the authorized representative, comparative matrix of tax withheld. Format prescribed in Annex A-3 of RMC number 75/2024. Additional notes: books of accounts and accounting records must be available for inspection upon request. Claims must be filed within 2 years from the date of tax payment. Only complete applications will be processed. Failure to comply or submit requested documents may result in denial of the claim. Remedies in case of inaction. Judicial appeal to the Court of Tax Appeal. If the BIR fails to act within the 180-day period, the taxpayer may treat the inaction as a deemed denial. The taxpayer then has 30 days from the expiration of the 180-day period to file a petition for review with the CTA. Option to wait for final BIR decision. Alternatively, the taxpayer may forego judicial remedy and wait for the BIR's final decision. However, this is risky if the 2-year prescriptive period lapses before a decision is made. Effect of judicial filing. Once a judicial claim is filed, the administrative claim becomes moot and will no longer be processed by the BIR. Important considerations. The 2-year prescriptive period from the date of tax payment still applies to both administrative and judicial claims. Filing a judicial claim too early may result in dismissal for failure to exhaust administrative remedies. The taxpayer must ensure that the claim is complete and properly documented to trigger the 180-day countdown. Application for a tax credit certificate. A TCC is a document issued by the BIR that allows a taxpayer to apply a refundable or non-refundable tax credit against future tax liabilities. It may arise from overpaid taxes, erroneously or illegally collected taxes, excess income tax credits due to business cessation or dissolution. Application process. File BIR Form number 1914. This is the official application for tax credits or refunds. Submit to the Revenue District Office or Large Taxpayers Division, depending on your classification. Submit the complete documentary requirements. Must include the filed tax return showing overpayment, proof of payment, withholding tax certificates, notarized taxpayers attestation, delinquency verification certificate, books of accounts, and other supporting documents if requested. Observe the prescriptive period. Application must be filed within 2 years from the date of tax payment or business cessation. Verification by revenue officers. Claims are subject to risk-based classifications. Low risk, no verification. medium risk 50% verification, high risk 100% verification. First-time claimants and those with prior denials are automatically classified as high risk. Processing timeline. BIR must act within 180 days from submission of complete documents. For VAT-related PCCs, the timeline is 90 days. Recovery of taxes erroneously or illegally collected. The recovery of taxes erroneously or illegally collected in the Philippines is a well-defined process governed by the National Internal Revenue Code, particularly Section 229, and further clarified by the Ease of Paying Taxes Act, RA number 11976 and Revenue Regulations number 5-2024. Legal basis provides statutory right for taxpayers to recover taxes that were erroneously paid due to miscalculation or clerical error, illegally collected without legal authority or misapplication of tax laws. The laws allows recovery through either a refund or a tax credit certificate. Grounds for recovery: overpayment of tax, double payment, erroneous computation or misinterpretation of tax laws, and penalties imposed without authority. Steps in filing a judicial claim. File an administrative claim first. Submit a written claim to the BIR using BIR Form number 1914. Include complete supporting documents, that is, tax returns, proof of payments, withholding tax certificates, and must be filed within 2 years from the date of tax payment. Wait for BIR action. The BIR has 180 days to act on the claim. If the BIR denies the claim or fails to act within 180 days, the taxpayer may proceed to judicial remedies. File a petition for review with the Court of Tax Appeals. This must be filed within 30 days from receipt of the notice of denial or expiration of the 180-day period without action. Prepare judicial documents. Petition for review, certified copies of the administrative claim and supporting documents, and legal arguments and factual basis for the actual refund or credit.